Yeah, so we've been investing in short-term rentals for well over 2 years now, and what we're going to share with you today is our top 6 rules, rules for exactly what we follow when we're investing in each short-term rental unit.
So for rule number 1, we make sure every single property we take on and that we have taken on has parking. This is so much more convenient for the guests, whether it's a family, whether it's contractors, they need somewhere to park. They don't want to be coming from the train station, for example, and having to walk all the way to the property with all their bags and stuff like that. If you have a property with free parking, especially like a driveway or anything like that, it's so easy for the guests to just park there overnight, and then what's a 10-second, like a 5-second walk into the property. So that's why make sure every single property you take on has parking, and make sure you mention that as well. Parking, like, you don't even realize how convenient parking is. Even when yourself, if you've booked an Airbnb online, most of you will look for parking, especially if you're driving there. So make sure that all the properties you take on does have parking. If it doesn't, you don't want to take it on. If it has paid parking nearby, you should consider it based on how much the parking actually costs. But if there's no parking nearby whatsoever, or the parking nearby is very expensive, then you should probably look on taking on a different deal, especially if you're looking to host contractors, families, leisure guests, and all of them sort of people.
Point 2 is desks. Now, the way that our strategy works, we like to target longer stays. Of course, it's called short-term rentals, but what that means is anything below 6 months, right? So we like to target like the 1 month to 6 month range. And the way that you do that is you work with people who are consistently going to be there. Corporate people and corporate workers tend to basically need to stay in cities for longer, right? And the way that you accommodate for corporate workers is number 1, fast Wi-Fi, and number 2, desks. So when I say desks, I mean you need to check when you're viewing a property, or when you're even considering a specific unit, you need to make sure you're looking at, can I fit a desk in here? Can I get a good working space? Even like a co-working space in the property. Maybe the kitchen has good space for them to work. You basically need to make it so there's easy areas and easy like locations within that property for them to get work done, because chances are they're going to be working till late, and if your property doesn't allow them to do that, they won't even be looking at it, right? You won't even be suited to take on corporates, and corporates are amazing. They tend to be like very, very clean guests. They tend to be, they pay on time because the company tends to pay for them. They tend to want the parking, so they tend to be really, really good guests to work with. So we recommend looking at desks.
And the next rule that we follow is a rule that we've made up ourselves. It's called the 2-to-1 ratio. What this means is that for every 2 bedrooms, make sure you have a bathroom. If there's a property, for example, with 2 beds and 1 bath, perfect. Like, that is perfect. You got 1 bath to share between two people. Like, that's amazing. However, when it starts to stretch over that, like 3 bedrooms to 1 bath, that's acceptable. But when you're looking at like 4 bedrooms to 1 bath, that's a bit much, because no one's going to want to stay in that property unless it's a family. Contractors like to have their own bathrooms, so their own showers and toilets or anything like that. So if you are looking to accommodate contractors especially, do not get a property with loads of beds and like not as many baths to like to basically allow the contractors to be able to have their own bathrooms. You don't want them to be sharing. They don't want to do that. I'm sure you wouldn't want to do that as well, especially if you're staying with your friends. You have staying with like 8 friends or something. You wouldn't want to share 1 bathroom. It's not.
You can just imagine like the whole queue, like while they're waiting
exactly.
outside.
I'm sure you would want to do it yourself.
Don't do it. Be practical.
The last thing you want to do is inconvenience the guest at all. That's the whole reason we actually, them 3 points that we've just described, all of them are convenient for the guest. The last thing that you want to do is inconvenience the guest at all. Like, you don't want to be doing that at all. So make sure you follow the 2-to-1 bedroom to bathroom ratio. So if there's 4 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, stay with
4. So rule 4 is about due diligence. Right now, where we are sitting, you can see behind us at certain points. Oh, there it is. I think it's showing. Anyway, that's a famous hotel, right? Everyone likes to comment, oh, you're in Leicester. Yeah, I am, mate. I make it very obvious. Anyway, hotels are super, super important. The strategy that we follow, especially if you're doing service accommodation, is very much like parallel to what hotels are doing, right? If hotels are accommodating people on a short-term basis and they've been for 20, 30, 40 years and they plan to do it for 20, 30, 40 years more, chances are these massive companies such as Premier Inn, such as Holiday Inn, I can't think of any hotel companies, they're going to spend millions in R&D, and guess what? You can leverage that. If you can find properties which are within like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20-minute walks, no, not 20 minutes, 5-10 minute walks from hotels, that is going to be a killer unit regardless. As long as, don't forget, you need to compete with the hotels, right? You need to have kitchens, you need to have gardens, you need to have parking, you need to have, 2, 3, 4 plus beds available. So we make sure that we do all of our due diligence beforehand. We even use Airbnb itself. We make sure that we link up with people that are in the location. So let's say, for instance, we're investing in Nottingham tomorrow, right? Or we're looking at a unit in Nottingham. We've been offered a unit in Nottingham. What we would do is link up with people that already invest in Nottingham and speak to them about how the market actually is, right? There's only so much you can learn online. The people that know the most amount of data and the people that know and they will give it to you in the best possible way will be actual investors who are actually in the market. So make sure you're speaking to people and doing your due diligence. Of course, when you analyze, when you look at deals, what actually happens when you take it on, what actually happens when you manage it will be slightly different to what you analyze, but some deals are no-goes and you find that out when you do your due diligence.
And another rule that we follow, so this is the 5th rule, is that we always take properties on with low rent. With Airbnb, the overheads are your rent, the bills, cleaning, and the council tax. And yeah, so that's all your sort of outgoings are. These 3 are they're basically like £500, like they're always going to be that, but your rent is the main bit of expense, so make sure you get as low rent as possible. If you do not get low rent, the numbers just don't tend to stack up most of the time. For example, if the rent is like 1,500 on a 2-bed flat in Leicester city centre and you're looking at about £100 a night and you get like say 22 nights booked, so you get that 2,200, you got the 1,500 rent, and then on top of that you got the 500 in bills, cleaning, council tax, all that sort of stuff. You're only getting about £200 profit. But then if you get like £900 rent, that profit goes from £200 to £600, etc. And even then, the whole point of actually like Airbnb is being able to increase your rates from reviews and plenty of other things, but make sure you do get that low rent, because without low rent, unfortunately the numbers just don't stack. So there's no point in forcing a deal at all. Never ever force a deal. Just because the landlord said yes doesn't mean that you should take on the property. It's always you to do your own research, and it's the same as due diligence as well. You need to make sure you do your research, you run your numbers correctly to see if the property actually makes money. If it does not make money, it will lose money. And why would you take on stress that's going to lose you money? Like, why? If I say like that, why would you do that? So make sure you get low rent. And how do you find out what low rent actually means? 1, find comparables. Look at properties in the area on Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market. See the rents in the same area that you're looking to invest in, and then you'll see if the landlord's basically giving you a good rent, a high rent, or a low rent. And then also what you can do is try to negotiate the rent. If the landlord says 1,000 at the start, there's a few negotiation points when taking on the property as an Airbnb. Make sure to get that negotiation and get that rent down as much as you possibly can. When negotiating with a landlord, you're looking to take off about, some landlords you can take off like £150. That's if you're good at negotiation though. But what you want to take off is about £50 to £100, and that will do you a lot.
Point number 6. We're speaking about properties. Okay, we would only ever take on a property or even work on a property or even list a property. We would only ever list a property which we would sleep and stay in ourselves. And I don't say this as like a hypothetical. We've literally stayed in our properties. Like there's pictures here of when we were sleeping in our property while we were getting it ready. And also there's been like a few times where we've come back, let's say from holiday at like 2 or 3 in the morning, forgot the keys, whatever, and then we've ended up having to stay in our properties. And when I say have to, I mean get to. Our properties are great. Like that was literally a better sleep than my own bed at home. So we only ever take on and list properties which we were staying ourselves, and you should only ever bring anything to the market which is at a higher standard. There's no point bringing shit to the market. That's where saturation comes in, right? You're gonna just be one of them properties that just never gets booked because no one gives a shit about it because it's not good. You didn't care about it. So make sure you only ever list a property. And when I say this, it's quite specific, right? When you're viewing a property, don't take a property which has a shit location around it. Like if it's 5 minutes away from the hotel, for instance, but the outside of it is like, it's like a famous area which is known for druggies and stuff like that, and it's known for being dangerous, and windows are getting smashed in left, right, centre, cars are getting robbed. It's probably not a good location for an Airbnb. Would you want to stay there? You probably wouldn't. So think of that when you're taking on Airbnbs, and make sure that you're considering that, and consider your guests. Your guests are your customers, and your customers are what makes you money, right? People that have stayed with you will make you more money than new customers as time goes on. And I hope that makes sense. Let me just explain that. We have a lot of people who are recurring customers. They keep coming back. They keep extending. And why do they do that? Because our properties are good. and because they want to stay longer. They know there won't be a better deal or a better host available for them in the city, right? So that's a big principle to follow, I would say. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, pretty much spot on. That's exactly why you should only take on, pretty much you should only take on properties that you'd sleep in yourself. And when I say it out loud, I'm sure when you said it out loud, I'm sure you hear it and you're like, okay, that makes sense. But what that actually means is that if you would stay in that property, list it. If not, get rid of it. Like, there's no need for that. The market has no space for that. We don't want that here. Leave that outside, please. We don't want any properties that no one's gonna want to stay in. And make sure to like advertise it as nicely as possible as well. Like, you don't want your pictures looking shit, because why would someone want to book a property when they got professional pictures everywhere, and then this iPhone taken picture that has shit lighting, no editing, anything like that. So make sure you take on properties that you'd only stay in yourself.
And that is it for the video. Hopefully you found those 6 tips helpful. And if you did, comment, share, like, subscribe, and yeah, please tune into the next video. We're dropping value every single week.